So I'm going to tell you how this happened to me between 7th and 8th grade. The story is funny, then scary, then funny again. And I tell it all the time because it is Three Stooges comedy ridiculousness, and it cracks people up. And I was at a party this weekend with people from my hometown who are maybe 6 to 8 years older than I am. And when I told it, my jaw dropped because I got a footnote that was completely unexpected 42 years later. So let me set the scene. This woman you see sitting in front of you, who can speak to the camera and talk to people with ease, she did not appear until later in my life. When I was between 7th and 8th grade, I was growing to 5'9". I was very thin. I had very big feet. I was awkward and gangly. Kids called me Olive Oil from Popeye because I was just like all rare. And I didn't have a lot of confidence. Just in case you didn't believe me and needed some proof, there she is. So one summer day, two of the cool girls who lived on my street, who were going from 8th grade to 9th grade, said to me, "Do you want to go down to the sand wash at the end of the street?" And I don't know if you have sand washes or if they're common outside of New Jersey, but it's basically like a man-made mini lake, and it has a drop off after about 10 feet and it goes really, really deep, and it has lots of temperatures around it. This one was surrounded by woods. There were always people in there, you know, riding motorbikes and doing drugs and all this kind of stuff. And my mom was always like, "Jessie, stay out of the sand wash. Bad things happen down there. You are not allowed to go to the sand wash." So these girls asked me if I wanted to go to the sand wash with them. And desperate for approval, I said yes. So we walked down to the sand wash, and I'm like ducking behind things, looking back at my house. And we go through the path, go through the wooded area, and then this beautiful blue sand wash opens up. There was nobody back there that day. Along the trail on one end was a beautiful big tree, and on a nail to the side of the tree was a rope swing. I think you know where this is going. So the two girls, we'll call them Tammy and Elaine because that's their names. So Tammy and Elaine say, "Let's do the rope swing." I look at my arms and think, there is no way in hell I can do a rope swing. So they look at me and they see my hesitation and they're like, "Are you afraid?" I'm like, "I'm not afraid." I was petrified. So Tammy gets the rope, flies out over the sand wash, comes back, says how much fun it was. Okay, Elaine grabs the rope, flies out over the sand wash, comes back, says how great it was. Now it's my turn. I'm holding the rope with my noodle arms, petrified to go. I won't step off the cliff, which is a 12 to 15 foot drop. And they start making chicken noises, taunting me as I'm holding the rope. I realized this was all a setup. I guess I have to do it. That's what peer pressure does to people. And so I held the rope. I leapt out over the cliff, over the water, and dropped straight down. Here's the really scary part. I landed on this part of my arm on a rock, which missed my head by 6 to 8 inches. So I'm half underwater with my arm on the rock. My head is under the water. My legs are akimbo up in the air. And I know my arm is broken because I wanted to vomit. It hurt so bad. I sat up out of the water. I had sand in my hair. I look up at Tammy and Elaine, and they are looking down with their mouths wide open, not knowing what to do. And I grab my arm and I just start screaming, "Oh my God, I'm in so much trouble." I was in so much pain, but I'm like, I'm in so much trouble. So they start yelling, "Just stand up, get up, hold your arm, blah, blah, blah." There are no steps up this cliff. There have been footholds dug out sporadically, and there are some roots that you can grab with your hands. I have one. But I have to get from the ground up to the ledge again with a broken arm, soaked from head to toe. So I start to try to find, I'm holding my arm, and I start to try to find footholds, trying not to fall off of this cliff. I get to close to the top, like 2 feet from the top. Tammy grabs my arm to pull me up, and when she got me about a foot closer to the edge of the cliff, Elaine grabbed this arm. I screamed bloody murder as they dragged me over the edge of the cliff onto the orange clay and then tucked my arm back into my body just to protect it. Now, the whole time I'm panicked, not about my arm. I'm panicked that I'm going to get in trouble because I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, and my mom was very good at grounding me and sticking to that grounding. So we had the very bright idea that we were going to go back to Elaine's house. They were going to put my clothes in the dryer. Tammy was going to dry my hair for me, and the swelling might go down from the broken arm and I might be able to hide it. We weren't the smartest people in the sand wash. By the time we get back to Elaine's house, my arm is a football because I had shattered the bone in this whole area. It was just like all little pieces, and it was gigantic. So I'm sitting there in my wet bra and my wet underwear with a purple football arm, and they say, well, let's call Bonnie and Lisa. They can come over and tell us what to do. So those two come over, they look at me and they're like, oh, I don't know if you're gonna be able to hide that. You think? So finally, Elaine's sister Lee comes home a little bit later. She looks at me sitting there like a drowned rat with a football arm, and she's like, you idiots, call her mother. I lived 50 yards away, so Elaine gets on the phone and she's like, Frankie, Jessica hurt her arm and she's at my house. And the phone clicks. 5 minutes later, my mom walks in the door, still holding the wooden spoon from stirring the gravy and meatballs. Saw me sitting there, saw my arm, and she said, put on a shirt, put on pants, we're going to the hospital right now. And even though I was protesting, I'm so sorry, I'm not supposed to be in the sand wash, and she's like, oh, I think this is punishment enough. And it was, because for 10 weeks that summer, I had to have my arm closely and tightly taped to my body. Fast forward to this weekend when I'm at the party and I wind up seeing a bunch of people from the old neighborhood who lived all in the neighborhoods around the sand wash. And I'm telling my story, and this one guy's sitting back and he's smoking a cigar and he's just kind of looking. And I'm wondering, why he's looking so intently at me. And then as soon as I finish my story, he stops and he says, I'm the one who put up the rope. Now he and his rope are a part of my life's history. Oh, and a few years later, I did actually have a glow up, thank God. Hold. Huh? 16. Who's olive oil now?